I'm in Clevedon, which is a seaside town not too far from Bristol. But it has got its connection with movies. They filmed Howard's End here with Anthony Hopkins, of course, and Emma Thompson. And the cinema here is the oldest, longest running... I can't quite get that, but I know a man who can. I'm going to have a word with him. John, I expect.
Yeah. Hey, John. Welcome to our cinema.
Yeah? Well, you better show me around. I'm not quite sure what to expect. Has it always been the Curzon?
No, the Curzon is its last name. It's had three names. It started in 1912 as the Picture House, and in 1946 became the Maxime.
The Maxime?
Yeah.
That's rather unusual for a cinema, isn't it? In fact, I don't know of another offhand.
The bloke that bought it in 1948 was called Maxwell Corn, so he changed the name to the Maxime.
Oh, I see. Now, look, how do you define this cinema? Because everybody says, oh, about 1910, 1912, we've got the oldest, we've got whatever it is. Now, what have you got here? It's quite a complex description, isn't it?
Well, from what we believe, it's the oldest, purpose-built, continuously operated cinema in the world.
In the world?
Well, we're thinking that a lot of cinemas in the States have probably been pulled down and a lot have been modernised or shut.
So that means that it's been used as a cinema more or less all the time, hasn't
From
it?
1912, yeah.
Now, this is a bit collectible. It looks, to me, like sort of tiling, ceramic, and it feels like wood.
No, it's actually tin panelling.
Is it?
And we believe it to have come from the States.
Yes.
Very popular in the States in the 1900s.
Yes, yes.
But there are not much examples in the UK.
Does this go back to 1912 when the cinema was built?
This was put in the 1920 renovation and building of this building over the top of the old building. I can show you some of the old one, the 1912 one. We've just got a relic of it downstairs.
Oh, let's have a look. It's like the last days of Pompeii.
Yeah.
Let's go and have a look. So, I mean, this is a bit like archaeology, isn't it? A bit like Roman remains or something. Now, this was the original 1912 cinema then?
This is the exterior wall of the 1912 building, yeah. With the decoration, and you can see this patterning down here, which was probably embossed paper on the bottom.
Yeah. And
the dado rail and the floor slope, you can see are all sloping this way. So the screen would have been this end of the building.
At that end?
At Old Church Road end, yeah.
Yeah, but hang on a minute, unless I've got this wrong, now the screen's at that end.
Yeah.
You can't tell me they could do that and not close a cinema. I can't believe that.
From the local paper, from the record archives of the local paper, every week during the period 1920 to 21, there's an advert for a film being shown here at the cinema.
So they kept something going.
Kept it going. Building regs must have been different in those days, I think.
Don't think you get planning permission for that these days.
I don't think so.
Let's have a look up here. Well, John, here we are in the top part of the cinema, sealed off from the cinema as it is today, but there's the old cinema roof, and it's a bit like a sort of cinema graveyard, old seats here and so on. I imagine there must be stacks of people who go in to watch a film there and have no idea that this sort of secret chamber is above their heads. Now you see, look there at the sticking up above the false ceiling there. There's the old proscenium arch, the top of it. Looks very theatrical, doesn't it? I mean, did they ever have live shows here?
I think Victor Cox, who's the founder and son of J.N. Cox, the stonemason, they used to have occasionally live shows. His stepmother, Blanche Howard, was an opera singer, and she used to perform between films, apparently. Yeah. On the sides here, where you can see the three red bays, there were box fronts as well, so that sort of lends to the idea that there used to be live performances here. Yeah. And in the end box down there, there's a photograph of Victor Cox on a Percy Daniels Clevedon manufactured organ that used to provide the music.
I noticed that, of course, we were looking at what I thought was tiling downstairs. You quickly pointed out to me that it was tin. Mm-hmm. Bang, bang, bang. Here it stretches away. There's acres of tin.
This is the best example of this tin panelling. Some people think it's moulding or plaster, but it's all tin panelling covering all the walls. And as I say, it's the most complete and extensive arrangement of this panelling.
And there, of course, you've got the windows, the apertures to the old dead projection box.
The original projection box was downstairs where we project from now.
Yeah.
But in 1946, the guy I was telling you about when you came in, Max Korn, he moved the projection box up here for some reason.
That sounds a bit of an awkward chap, doesn't he? I mean, changes the name of the cinema, moves the projection
box as well. I
Yeah.
don't think the projectionists were too happy.
Well, Maurice, we're in this rather, as you can see, derelict old projection room. It's not been used for many years. I don't think there's anything projected from here for about the last 30 years. Have we got any idea of what was first flashed onto the silver screen when this cinema opened?
Well, it should have opened at the beginning of the week, in actual fact, the day after the Titanic sank. So they opened on the Saturday afternoon, the 20th, and they opened, in actual fact, with what was then loosely called newsreel shots about the Titanic, and it was, in actual fact, a fundraising for the Lord Mayor's appeal for the victims and the relatives of the Titanic.
So I suppose for most people in those days, it was amazing to come in and see just pictures moving about on the screen.
They'd never seen moving pictures before, really, until, well, in the public hall they did, but not in a cinema as such. But it really started with the Cox family and Victor Cox. Victor Cox is the most well-known. Yes, it was very, very popular, so popular, in fact, that within 18 months he'd had to extend this small cinema that he'd built, the Picture House, to take about another 80 or 90 people.
Now, right at the height of cinema's popularity, 1930s, 1940s, along came the war, of course. Now, did this cinema have a good war?
Well, I guess it did, really. Unfortunately, it became a casualty of war because there was the one and only raid on Clevedon. 6 bombs apparently were dropped, one of which landed outside of the cinema's entrance doors, and the building is scarred. It's still got the shrapnel marks.
Oh yes, I've seen those. That's on the right-hand side, isn't it?
And all of the stained glass windows went and everything. Yeah. But the cinema was open again the next day. They just boarded up and carried on in the true tradition.
Now, you see, you pride yourself on never having closed as long as the law allowed it. But look, when the bloke here decided, I'll turn the cinema around 45 degrees, put in a couple of hundred of extra seats and so on. Now, it must have closed during those weeks of work, surely.
There is no break in the 27 months that the building was done. All the records from the local newspaper were checked for 27 months, and films were shown every week here. They were showing serials at the time, and the serials run in their chronological order right the way through those 27 months.
So the cinema episode 19, so you know they must have sat through the others.
Yeah.
Now, John, the Curzon Clevedon, it seems to be surviving and you're running it. Now, how did that situation come about?
I'd been involved in setting up a cinema in Dalston in 1978 at Rio as a community business, which is still going 20-odd years on. I'd been to the Curzon a couple of times. We live in Clevedon, been a couple of times, but was astounded when I saw that the fact that it had gone into receivership, and as a small single-screen independent, my assessment was that it wouldn't necessarily be carrying on as a cinema. So I started a campaign to save it as a cinema, and got the support of local people, formed a committee.
Now, you're paid, but is anybody else paid?
I want to make sure that we can always put the film on the screen, so the projectionists, the box office and the kiosk staff are all paid staff. Not that they're paid a lot, and they often give a lot of time over and above what they're paid for anyhow. But that's the 4 paid staff. We have a voluntary administrator, and then we've got a rota of about 80 volunteers who act as ushers. We have at least 2 a night, welcoming people, tearing the tickets. And there's a trade-off there. Hopefully they get to see the films they want to see for nothing.
I wonder if you feel that perhaps, well, history's stopped for the Curzon now. It's hit a plateau. It'll keep going for, no doubt, quite a long time. I mean, is there anything in the future or anything for the new millennium?
We want to see the cinema retained in Clevedon and in its surrounding area. It's not just exclusively Clevedon. There are Portishead, Nailsea and the surrounding parishes that we serve. And people want to see it maintained here. There's a lot of support for the campaign to save the cinema. We have a firm of architects, London-based architects now, who have worked on several cinemas on board, and we're working out plans now for its renovation. We want to bring it back to its former glory, as it was in the 1920s, exposing all its tin panelling, opening up the circle, and getting the latest facilities as far as sound and projection equipment goes.
So you see very much a future for the Curzon in the new millennium.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Open-ended then.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, that's it then from the Clevedon Curzon, the oldest purpose-built, continuously operated cinema in the world. Probably. One grown-up, please. Thank you.